Okay, yesterday we started a little bit sort of in the middle of the story over here. We skipped one part, so I want to just go back to it. And the Jewish people are complaining against Moses and Aaron. Korach is leading them all. Korach is very influential. He's very persuasive. He's very powerful. The Jewish people, in any case, are very uncertain. They're totally dependent on Moses. They're in a strange place. They're in the middle of the desert. They're all a little bit angry because God just informed them that everybody over 20 years old is not going to go into the land of Israel. They're not going to go into the land of Israel. They're going to wander around in the desert for another 40 years. So everybody's all angry and miserable. And there's the little part that we skipped yesterday. So I want to go over here. So it says, so here comes Korach. We'll get to the part. So Korach says, okay, Moses, I've got everybody with me. We're making an official complaint. And that's it. You're not our king anymore. You're out. And Aaron, who is this Aaron guy that you made him into the high priest? Where did that come from? Right? I say everyone should be equal. And he said, this is what I skipped yesterday. Korach says to Moses, Aflo el eretz zavat chalav davash heviyotanu. Also to the land of flowing milk and honey, you didn't take us. You said you were going to give us a portion of fields and vineyards. You're going to take out our eyes. We don't want to go with you. We're not going to be, let's have a look. Rashi says, you said you were going to take us from Egypt. You said you're going to take us to the land flowing in milk and honey. You took us out of Egypt, but you didn't take us into any land of milk and honey. You didn't, you just decreed on us that we're all going to die here in the desert. You said that in this desert, our bodies are going to fall. Of course, they deserved it. That wasn't the intention. But Korach wasn't playing this card, this hand. He was saying the Jewish people are miserable. They're not going to forget about what the sin that they did. They did a terrible sin. They didn't want to go into the land of Israel. The Jewish people didn't want to. So that's the nature of the Jews. You understand? They said, we don't want to go into the land of Israel. The spies came back. We're not going in. So Moses said, okay, so you won't go in. They said, no, we want to go in. We want to go into the land of Israel. And a bunch of them actually tried. It was the Mapilim. Remember we learned last week. They tried to go in. So they said, okay, we're not going to go in. But now we're miserable because you didn't take us in the land of Israel. So no matter what happens, the Jewish people are arguing with Moses. Not an easy job to lead the Jewish people. And I mean, listen, the Torah is not afraid to tell us this. The Torah tells us all this. One of the reasons, of course, is telling us this is that if you think about it a little bit, you'll see that the Jewish people logically were right. The Jewish people, and that's the thing that Korach played on. If you think about it, the Jewish people, at least in Egypt, they suffered, but they had security. They knew what was going to happen tomorrow. They knew you supply the number of bricks or whatever, and you got a good chance of living. Here in the desert, they don't know if they're going to die or if they're going to live. All of a sudden, Moses says, go into the land of Israel, and you'll have a little security. The spies come back, that he sends back, and says, what are you talking about security? We're going to be trampled over there. We're going to be devoured. Those people are huge. They're giants. Moses says to the people, listen, rely on God. They said, listen, we've heard that before, Moses. We heard that before. You took us out of Egypt. Right? You took us to Mount Sinai, everybody's souls jumped out of their bodies. We're living every second on the edge on the edge. Huh? We're living on the edge of life all the time. and we don't want it anymore. We want to stay in the desert, and we're surrounded by cloud. Now all of a sudden, Korach comes along and says, "Hey, you know who's the source of all of our problems? Moses." Anashim like Adam Atola Kalalos of Bechavero. It still says that it's Korach. He was really trying to blind the Jewish people, but he said, "Moses, you're trying to blind the Jewish people." Vayichar Moshe mode. Moshe got very angry. Vayomer, and he said to God, "Al tefenol minchasam. Don't listen to their offering. Lo chamor echad mehem nasati below hareoti echad mehem. I never took anything, not even a donkey." Rashi says, what does it mean? It said, the simple meaning is that tomorrow I'm going to tell these people to offer up incense. These are the 250 people with Korach. I'm going to tell them to offer up incense. This is before those. I'm sorry, I jumped back, right? This is before the ground opens up and before everything. The enemies of Moses are standing high and proud. They're sure they're going to win. Tomorrow, Moses is saying to God, listen, tomorrow I'm going to tell everyone to offer up incense. I'm begging you, God, don't listen to their offering. Now, why might you think listen to the offering? Because might be the one of them is like really sincere, and God listens to sincere prayers, even though that these prayers are against Moshe. Okay. Another meaning is I know that all the Jewish people have a part in the continual offerings. Even that don't accept. Okay. He said, I never asked for one donkey. Where did Moshe get donkeys from? He said, when I was leaving Egypt, and when I was leaving Midian, and I went to Egypt to take the Jewish people out, and I took my daughter, my wife, and my sons on a donkey. I took the donkey on my own. It was my own donkey. I didn't take it from him, right? I should have taken a donkey from them, but I didn't. But what I only took from mine. I did everything for them, and I didn't ask anything in return. Moshe, so Moshe said to Korach, and this is what I skipped yesterday. I mean, this is the reason I'm going over this. You and all of your little group, your 250 men, stand in front of the tomorrow. Come in the morning in front of the tabernacle, and you and Aaron, we're going to make a duel. There's going to be a duel. Each person takes a fire pan and put in it incense. What was a fire pan? It was like a pan of copper, and they put in it coals, and they put on the coals incense. Now, incense was one of the offerings, of course, in the Holy Temple was incense. Now, everyone's going to offer up, you 250 people, you'll offer up your fire pans with incense, you and Aaron, each one. And each person took his fire pan, and they put on the fire, and they put on it incense, and they stood at the entrance of the tabernacle, and there was also standing there Moses and Aaron. Oh, good. That's what we got up to yesterday. And then it says there comes out fire. God says separate from these people, and they this, and God, and He says everybody, there's going to be a terrible tragedy now, and because He had the whole congregation of Israel said, listen, everybody, anyone who wants to regret, take a couple steps back, because there's going to be, it's going to be action now, and it's not going to be pleasant. So Moses came, and Datan va'aviran, and they stood up in front of Moses, and here we go. And Moses said, now you're going to know that God sent me, and not these. I'm doing this quickly because we did this yesterday. It's not over. You're going to see there's going to be another big punishment. In addition to fire coming down and Korach getting swallowed up in the ground, there's also going to be a plague. There's also going to be a big plague. And there's going to die a lot of Jews. 14,700 Jews died. Okay, in the plague. We'll see. Let's go on. Moses said, now you're going to know that God sent me to do all these things, and it didn't come from me. If it's like everybody else dies, so these people will also die. And they'll die a natural death, right? But if God makes a new thing, then you'll believe that God sent me. All of a sudden, the ground opens up. Just as he finished this, all of a sudden, the ground cracked open. And it was underneath Korach and his family. The ground opened up its mouth and it swallowed them. Now, it doesn't say who the them is, but you're going to see it's Korach's family. Here it says, and it followed them, all the people that were with Korach that were drawn after him in his argument, not the 250 people, mainly his family and those that really believed in him. And also all of their property was also swallowed up. Why all their property? What did their property do? It says all their houses. It says their houses and all the people that were with Korach and all of his property. Why his property? So he says, so that nobody, maybe a good person, will get a hold of it. So lo yizku sheyut tzadikim sheyanu tzadikim ba'amalam. Korach had said it was tremendously rich, wealthy. So you figure just swallow up Korach. He had all this money that he made and use the money for a good purpose, right? So then he says, no, God said, listen, people use this money and they'll say, listen, this guy Korach was really bad news, but something good did come out of it. I mean, he gathered all this money together. So at least that could. So it says, no, I don't want anything good to come out of Korach whatsoever. No one will even get any benefit from his wealth. Right? Even his wealth will go down to hell with him. They went down, all of them, into hell. And the ground covered over them, and they were lost among the congregation. Here he says, and what does it mean? That the earth did not kill them, but rather they were left alive. And the earth deposited them in hell. That's what it says. They went down into hell alive. And it doesn't say just they went down to hell. It says Sha'olah means in the direction. Hagam shekal, even though the Hebrew grammar is that if you put a lamed in the front of the word, and is the same thing as putting a hey after it. It means the same thing. Whether you say li, to hell, or Sha'olah, means also to hell. But it says what? That since after they went down into hell, God gave them power that they didn't die down there. Like it says, rabbis, that God gives power to the evil people to receive their punishment. We're going to see it gets even worse. They were left alive after they were in hell itself, in order that they should have more feeling. They should have more of a feeling of punishment. And if it says that they just went to hell, so you think that that's it, their souls went down to hell, and that's all. So no, here's the souls and their bodies. And also it says that the ground covered them over. Shalo kora ba'oto hafticha kamo sheyikra bepetichas harash sheyi lo tisagir tekev. Usually when there is a earthquake, so the ground opens up, and that's it, just opens up. But here it's not. Here the ground opened up, which that can happen, right? There's these sinkholes, but here it opened up and it just closed up, swallowed them up. Here it closed immediately in mouth. It's almost like they disappeared, right? Everybody just saw them, that's it, right? The ground just opened up and closed. All these Jews that were around them, they ran away to their voices because maybe they said, maybe the ground will swallow us up also. Here the grammar doesn't seem to be right. It says that all the Jewish people around them ran away from the noises. Here it says they ran away to the noises. What was the noises? Rashi says the noises was that there was a voice which came out, the sounds that came out of them being swallowed up. Frightful sound, right? The ground opened up. The Kli Ykar says, no, that's not what happened. It says it should have said, Mikol and Miboile, and Hechan Nasu, where did they run away? Va'ana lefanav Yisrech, how could they run away from God? What do you mean they're running away? So it says the rabbis say in the Midrash Tanchuma that Korach and his crowd, they were saying constantly, they were yelling out, they remained alive, and they were yelling out, Moshe is true and his Torah is true, V'hem b'da'im, and we are liars. We are liars. Okay, we are liars. I want to tell an interesting thing about this also. That's what it says. So that's what it means. This voice was coming up from under the ground. Everybody ran away and they heard this voice coming out, these words. So everyone ran toward the voices because they wanted to hear what they were saying. They wanted to know, they figured that they were, and they were right, they were confessing their sin, and the Jewish people wanted to know what sin exactly it was, so they would avoid it. That's what it says. That's what they said. They said, we want to find out what was the sin, because maybe the earth will swallow us up, like it did to them. When they heard that the Korach and his people were saying out, screaming out from hell, Moshe is true and the Torah is true. So we learn this, Shekapru Bogam Patoroto, that not only did they deny Moses, but they also denied the Torah. And this is what it said. Why? Because they heard on Mount Sinai, Anochi v'lo yelecha, I am God, your God. You shouldn't have any other gods. From God, they heard this directly from God himself. If so, all the Jews, God wanted that all of the Jews should hear the confession of Korach to know that everything is from God. And whatever Moses said to them was also from God. So you should not deny not Moshe and not any of his words, not God as well. I just want to tell, I heard an interesting story today that a fellow went into a store and a Haitian, in Crown Heights, a guy from Haiti or whatever, there's a lot of people from Haiti and from Jamaica, came and approached him. And he said, excuse me, sir, can you tell me who is the greatest man in Judaism? So he figured this was one of these missionaries, he's going to come and he's going to tell him this thing. So he said, listen, I'm really not interested. He said, no, tell me who is the greatest man in Judaism. So he said, two people. Who do you think the greatest? So he said, King David and Moses. He said, oh, and who is the greatest, David or Moses? So he said, I think Moses. So he said, yes, this is really what. He said, I heard that there's a man that's called the Moses of our generation, and his grave is in Montefiore Cemetery. This is what I was told, and it's true, because every time I have a daughter that's sick, and every time she starts to get sick, so she writes a letter, sends a letter, I guess in a fax, sends a letter to over there, and she gets better. Says, that's the Moses of our generation. So, according to me, all right, that's good enough. Good. Here's an interesting thing. I heard from someone that it says that what it says in the Midrash, that Korach and his group, his family, his close followers, were screaming out from heaven, Moses is the truth, and the Torah is the truth, and Moses is the truth. Moses is the truth, and his Torah is the truth. V'hem b'da'im, and they are lying. Who is the meaning of him lying? Who's saying this? Him lying. They're talking about themselves. Who are they talking about? So I heard that this is a voice that's coming out from heaven. The Korach yelled out, Moses is true and his Torah is true. And from heaven came out a voice, and they're lying. What does it mean they're lying? They don't really believe that Moshe is true. God kept them alive in hell. What? That they thought, we got a chance. One day we'll get out and we'll succeed in our rebellion against Moses. So they were screaming, listen, right now we're in hell, what are we going to do? So they screamed out, and they're still alive. So they said, we believe in the Lord, we believe in his Torah, we believe in his Torah. But it says from heaven came out an announcement, they're lying, they don't really mean it. They don't really mean it. Okay. And from this it says that the evil people, even when they're in hell, they don't repent. An evil person, even in hell, he doesn't repent. Right. That's the nature of a man. What are you going to do? Fire. Okay, so this, we didn't get to this. Now here we got Korach. It falls down into hell. The ground closes up. The rest of the Jews run away. They distance themselves. Here, according to this opinion, they didn't distance themselves. They tried to come close to hear what, according to the Kli Ykar, to hear what he was saying. What about the 250 men with the fire pans? The Eish Yatzam Eish Hashem, fire came out from God. The Tochal at the Chamishim v'Matayim Ish, and it devoured the 250 people that were making this sacrifice, sacrificing this. Okay, next chapter. It's not over yet. So we got one group, Korach and his close followers get swallowed up. 250 men, they all get devoured from fire from heaven. And God said to Moshe, and Moral Elazar ben Aaron, say to Elazar, the son of Aaron Kohen, the Yorem at the Machtod, lift up these fire pans, copper fire pans, Mibena Sreifa, from the burned up people. And the coals, spread them around, right? Don't let them be used by anyone. Kikadeshu, because they're holy. Here it says, spread them around on the earth, me'ala machtos. Take them off from the fire pans and scatter it on the ground. Why? Because the machtot, the fire pans, have become holy, and it's forbidden to get any pleasure from them. They were made a kli sharet. They were made vessels to serve God with, says the Ramban. And the Ramban said, how did they become holy? How did they become holy? Because Moses made them holy. That's what he says. Moses, he himself made them holy. It says, the reason that Moses said that these fire pans, Alpi Moses, they became holy. Because Moses, he made them holy. He thought that Ya'anu otam Elokim. He didn't know. He thought maybe God will answer them. He thought to himself, listen, maybe they got a point. Maybe I should be deposed. No, this is the majority, maybe. So he said, therefore, he made these fire pans holy because he thought that God would accept their offering of the other. But nevertheless, even though God did not accept their offering, but nevertheless, they became the pans became holy, and they couldn't be used for any mundane purposes. And also, Moses wanted it to be a sign to the Jewish people who is the boss, what they tried to do, and that finally, in the end, God decided that you have to listen to Moses and not just to anybody who stands up and makes trouble. At the machtotat chataim hailu, and these copper fire pans, these fire pans that sinned from these evil people that sinned with their souls, you should make them a plate covering for the altar. Which altar? It says the outer altar. The outer altar. For the copper altar that they made the sacrifices on outside of the tent of meeting. Because they brought them to God and they became holy. And then this should be a sign to the Jewish people. Balaturim. These people that sinned, so it says, it should have said, what does it mean, ha'ele? The sinners, these sinners. So it says that these sinners, this refers, at the Chata'im, at Amalek, the sinners, when Amalek, it said, Lech, Kamosha, Elu, like these people, that they sinned also. So also sinned Amalek. Why? How is this similar? Both Amalek and Korach sinned with their souls. Namely, they saw all of the miracles that God did. God took the Jews out of Egypt, split the sea, gave them the Torah. And nevertheless, Nizdavguven, he made war against them. Or, like it says in the Midrash, Mishalmi, Shira, Ambatia, the Mashal. I'm sorry, it's like a metaphor to someone that saw that there's a big hot bath that nobody can come in, and Amalek jumped in. The same thing as everybody saw the holiness of Moshe, and all of a sudden Korach stands up and wants to cool everybody off. So therefore these people sin with their souls as well. Elazar HaKohen took these fire pans and he made a covering for the altar. Zichron, as a remembrance for the Jewish people that a strange person should not come out, and one who is not from the seed of Aaron, to do any work, offer up incense in front of God. So you shouldn't be like Korach and his group, like God said. Okay, finished? Not exactly. By Yilonu Kol Adas Bnei Yisrael, all the Jewish people started complaining on Moshe and Aaron. What are they complaining about? Why? They won. There was a battle fair and square. Everybody abided according to the rules, and Moses and Aaron won, and everybody else lost. What's everybody complaining about? Lama lemu atem et am Hashem. You killed Jewish people. Moses and Aaron, you killed innocent Jewish people. Right? These 250 people, the fire came down from heaven and the ground opened up and swallowed up Korach. That's because of you. Huh? That you have to know, this is the Das Kenim. The Fisha Omrim, because Moses told everyone to bring this incense. And the incense seems to be that it's the how do you say, the poison. It's an elixir of death. How is that? Nadav and Avihu, they also were Kohanim, and they were burned up because of it. Eish Zarad says they